please.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invitation and to have the possibility to present Hafen City as a case study for reinventing a downtown area on the waterfront. Having first a look as an aerial view on the central area of Hamburg, you can see as a red dot the area of the inner city between Alster Lake and River Elbe. You see south of it in yellow this area of Hafen City in direct neighborhood. Around Hafen City, all the area in the south, more also in that direction, it's all harbor area. So Hafen City will still remain in direct neighborhood of the port area of Hamburg. You see the port area extends about on 75 square kilometers. Hafen City has about 1.5 square kilometers. So it's only 2% of all the port-related area in Hamburg. The metropolitan area of Hamburg counts around 4.3 million of inhabitants. The central city area itself about 1.8 million. The economic drivers are the port. It's the third importance in Europe at the moment, but there is also an importance place for civil aviation industry. There is an Airbus plant and Lufthansa Technik located in Hamburg. But beside that, in Hamburg, there is a strong mixed economy with emphasis on trading and services. In the following time, I would like to talk about urban transformation. First, urban regeneration, which was necessary, and as a product of that, a new urbanity on the waterfront. Hafen City area, as a former port area, had to be reused as an urban inner city extension. In a second chapter, I would like to link these themes of urbanity with ecological sustainability, which I think is the big challenge for cities in the 21st century to link these two important issues. I will present you how we think on urban structures, how they can be sustainable, and sustainable mobility systems. And in a second chapter, I will describe our strategy for sustainable heat supply and sustainable construction. I will end with a reflection on integrated urban development. I will explain how this project is governed and managed. I'm working for the development company, Hafen City Hamburg GmbH, which is a privately organized company, but by 100% publicly owned. So, this is the situation of the western Hafen City area in the late 19th century. You can perceive the inner city between Alster Lake and River Elbe. There is a lot of industrial uses in Hafen City area. Here in the foreground, a gaswork in operation for more than 130 years. Here is a building which still remains, is still remaining in our days, and now having the a maritime museum in it. This is the site of Elbphilharmonie concert hall, but it was transformed during the centuries. But you also see in this illustration, in the former days, the city reached River Elbe, and with the harbor extension in the 19th and early 20th century, this direct connection between the city and the river was interrupted. Having a look at the same area 15 years ago, you see these harbor basins deeply cut in the land area, in the Hafen City area, to the shoreline of River Elbe. You see more a heavy industrial atmosphere with this power heating plant, but you also see quite little activities on the water in the harbor basins. Most of these harbor-related uses moved away more westwards into new developed areas of the harbor, where you have more generous spaces for container terminals and deeper water situations. The master plan for Hafen City development was approved by the Hamburg Parliament in the year 2000. It serves only as a general framework for all the development, and for the development of the different town quarters, it will be enhanced step by step. The area contains about 160 hectares and includes a waterfront of about 10 kilometers due to these harbor basins deeply cut in the land area. Finally, Hafen City, till the end of the development, which we expect till approximately the year 2025, it will extend the central area of the city, which is inside this green belt of Wallring, by 40%, and by the number of inhabitants even by 80%. It will include space for approximately 12,000 residents and about 45,000 jobs. So, for the development, at the beginning we had to deal with contaminated soil, for example. At this location over here, we had this former gas work, and we had to exchange these soils down into a depth of 5 to 6 meters. We had to relocate harbor-related enterprises like this coffee roastery, which was not compatible with the intended residential uses in the future because of the smell emissions. This is a picture showing this soil exchange. The soil had to be burned as a special waste and was completely removed from the area. The eastern part was characterized by large areas for railway tracks, and also this area will be transformed in the next years. So, speaking with Kevin Lynch, we were thinking about what makes a good city form. You need, of course, green open spaces. A city should offer a lot of cultural opportunities, but it should also be a place for expanding enterprises. This is the construction side of the news magazine Der Spiegel. And it should work as an attractive location for a lot of office, for shopping, leisure, but also to live in. So, to develop such an area, it's not enough to regard it as a space for residential and office use. It's also necessary to have culture, to have entertainment facilities in it. Such a place has to work also as a place for shopping, for consumption, in order that people from outside, from the whole metropolitan area, are coming to this place. And last but not least, it also has to work for as a public place for all the Hamburg population, also for those who do not have the opportunity to live or to work in this new location. Hafen City area was fenced in till 2003, so there were no residents before, and it's necessary to establish new social institutions and networks. We have also urban sociologists in our team to support such activities. A new knowledge milieu will be created by the newly in Hafen City located enterprises, but also by a new Hafen City University, educating architects, civil engineers, town planners, and also a privately founded University of Logistics. The very idea about this mix of urban function is that we want to overlay this different urban functions even in the scale of the single buildings. To give you a figure, till the end of the development, we expect to build around 2 million of square meters gross floor space. That's about 2.5 times as much as the development of Potsdamer Platz in Berlin, for example. Regarding at the fields of ecological sustainability, this reuse of industrialized or harbor-related areas in a central inner city location, I think this is a very big issue in terms of sustainability, because you can use the existing infrastructure of the city and connecting the new part of the city with it. Afterwards, I will explain you how we regard city structure also as a tool to create a sustainable layout of the city. It's linked with mobility structure. It goes on the scale of the single buildings with the heat supply of the buildings and the sustainable construction of the buildings. And an important field, which I will not present today, but we will also have to work in the future, is the consumer behavior. That also the users, the residents and the employees, that they behave in a sustainable way. Coming back to the mix of different urban functions in a city. Here you see the layout of the Western Hafen City on a horizontal section on the second floor. When I'm going down to the ground floor, you see with the change of colors also the change of functions. Going back on the second floor, you see the red and blue colors are dominating for residential and office uses. In the ground floor, we have a majority of restaurants, retail, and service functions. We also have a building regulation for the buildings that the ground floor has to have a minimum height of 5 meters in order to make such different uses than residential or office-related uses to make that possible. These are pictures of these ground floor areas. These streetscapes, these urban street spaces, they have to be attractive, that they are used in order that they are frequented by the public. All the open spaces we create in Hafen City, they show different characters. Some of them are very green, leisure-orientated. Others are more urban. They work as an open urban theater where we also have readings or theaters. There are places also on the water. This is a pontoon on the water in a historic harbor basin. We also have a lot of cultural activities. At the beginning of the project, we had to organize all by ourselves, but more and more with the increasing number of residents and enterprises located in Hafen City, this cultural life develops also by their own initiatives. With this map, I want to show you this, on one hand, this efficient land use we want to achieve in Hafen City. We are talking about density figures for the individual town quarters between 3 and 5, which is for at least German circumstances very high. And if you have a special look at 3 figures, here the area needed for traffic is 25%. The footprint for the individual buildings is around 30%. And the public accessible open space, which is including these private spaces, which is publicly accessible, it's more than 35%. And comparing it with an existing part of the inner city in Hamburg, that's with the main shopping road, Mönckebergstraße, with the famous Chili house in it, there the traffic area has a proportion of 40%. The footprint of the individual buildings is more than 50%. And the public accessible open space is around 5%. So with a similar density, we have a completely different urban structure, which is more compact. The urban blocks are smaller, and in between the blocks, we have more open spaces, which can connect the different quarters with footways and cycle paths. Looked from the air, you see this combination of very dense areas, but in between always open spaces related with the water, which make it also for residential uses comfortable. And as a side effect, in summer times, these wet areas of these harbor basins create also a blue microclimate, which is fresher than a normal city area without these water situations. And this climate adaptation to with increasing temperatures in summertime we have to deal with in the future. For Hafen City, we are creating a completely new urban topography due to the flood protection, which is necessary. The inner city is protected by an embankment line or a main dike line along a channel over there. And Hafen City is created as a group of flood-protected islands, so-called plinth, in front of this flood protection system. This has two major advantages. The development can be realized step by step, by town quarter to town quarter, and on the other hand, we can keep this intense and direct contact between land and water, which would be given up when we would have to build a new dike line at the shoreline to the river. So we have on an elevated level, that's around 7.5 meters above sea level, we have the entrance level, the so-called streetscape, with the entrance to the individual buildings. Next to that, we have the greenscapes with small pockets parks, with larger parks, and additional landscape elements. And on the lower level, on the historic level, we have the new promenades, all publicly accessible terraces, plazas on the water, and new squares. You can see that also on this map, where you see this link of the lower level in this green and yellow colored areas, and cuts to the upper level, which are made as pedestrian walks in between the buildings, a bit similar like the city structure here in Santander. And below the bridges, we have usually connections so that you can go across all the area without crossing car traffic. And the idea behind that is we want to create a city which can be experienced by walking, that the car use can be reduced. You can, from Hafen City, you can reach more than 150,000 working places on foot in a walking distance of 20 minutes. So we try to produce as much as possible of these incentives to renounce on the car. There is a new efficient public transport system with a new underground line which will open till the end of 2012 with 3 additional underground stations. It's supported on the land side by a fuel cell operated bus fleet, and on the water side by a ferry system with additional ferry stations in Hafen City. And these ferries can be used in Hamburg like buses. The car parking is integrated in the base of the buildings as part of the flood protection. So we have very little space in the street section for car parking. All this is mostly organized in the base of the buildings, and towards the harbor basins we have these public accessible promenades on the lower level. We made a concept for a central heating supply last year for the eastern part of Hafen City, where we rely for the basic load only on renewable energies, such as fuel cells powered by biomethane, wood gas-fired boiler system using recycling wood from a wholesale market in the neighborhood, and heat pumps using the heat of river water as a power source. And only for the peak loads, we have additional low temperature boilers for powered by natural gas. This leads to a very low CO2 emission figure of 89 grams per kilowatt hour. This is compared to the use of natural gas, for example. It's 1/3 of it. We started with this central heating supply in 2002 for the Western Hafen City, based on the public district heating, but added also with renewable energy sources like solar heating on the roof of the residential buildings, a fuel cell, a unit, and additional combined heat power units. But you see, compared to the CO2 emission figure of 2009, in the last 7 years, there was a dramatic positive progress in these clean tech technologies, which we could use for the development. And these central heat supply, you have to be connected with your building. The only exception is if you can guarantee a more ecological heat supply, then you can choose that as an alternative. We established an eco-label for the individual buildings containing 5 different categories. The projects have to fulfill at least 3 of them. I will show you in just one project what is meant with these different categories, just in the following. Here you see this increasing number of green buildings we can establish in Hafen City. We started on a voluntary base with large users like Unilever building or Spiegel news magazine. And more, we make these requirements for green buildings as a prerequisite when we sell the land to the private project developers. I'll show you this example of Unilever, designed by Danish architects from Stuttgart. It won the MIPIM award for the best office building last year at the MIPIM in Cannes. And it consumes less than 100 kilowatt hours per square meter and year, which is a very low figure. But it's also realized with as much as possible low-tech solutions. This facade skin is a wind protection, which makes it possible to use conventional sun protection devices, and the windows can be opened individually in spite of the strong winds which we have in this shore area. There are more requirements, for example, for lighting. Very interesting is that the use of LED lighting in the individual workspaces. This helps to save up to 90% of power consumption, but also it reduces the heat load of the building by 70%. And the challenge for modern buildings, modern office buildings, is not really the heating energy in winter times, but the energy which is needed for cooling in the summer period. But for us it's also very important that the individual buildings open themselves to the public space. And through the building we have a public passage which is open day and night, and the enterprise itself starts in the upper floor. And along this passage we have brand shops of Unilever and a public cafe. So I will end with two charts explaining a bit our role in the development process and our fields of activity. Hafen City Hamburg GH is in between the private sector and the official administrative sector of the city of Hamburg. The private sector primarily is focused on its role on the single building plots. We are the landowner for more than 95% of the land, and we are also the master developer and responsible for the construction of the new public infrastructure, such as the public spaces, the new bridges, the new roads. We organize communication, all the marketing-related issues, but we are also responsible to acquire investors and property sales. On an official level, there are two state commissions approving the land sales and approving the development plans. And the chief urban town planner is defining the urban design guidelines. But there are also, on the level of the urban development, a number of activities which are very important, where we can steer the development. And well, to come to a final summary, I would like to give you an imagination of the investment of the public side, which is about 1.8 to 2 billion of euros over the time period of 25 years. And from this figure, we intend to realize out of the land sales around 1 billion of euros. But against that, there are the private investments, which we estimate of about 7.0 billion of euros. And our role is to steer these private investments for a public use and to produce sustainable public goods for a long period of time. I will end with this picture showing the new silhouette of this inner city extension of Hamburg, of Hafen City. After 130 years where the city was interrupted from its shoreline at River Elbe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.